Hi, everybody. This is a very different podcast that we're going to be doing today because we're contacting someone who is in Tororo, Uganda, northern Uganda, and getting Wi-Fi or getting a connection is very, very difficult. So this was pre-recorded, and you'll see that we actually jump around a little bit during the conversation because she ran out of data and she had to go and buy some more. So she was sending out somebody to run and get some more data for her in the middle of this conversation, and that's why it's a little jumpy. But it's not. This is an incredible conversation that you don't want to miss.
Okay, welcome back to the fifth episode of Releasing the Genius podcast, where we interview people from around the world that have made a significant change to the lives around them and also had a global impact.
So today we have a special guest, and the special guest today is Phibby Otaala. And Phibby I met her, I think it was about 12 years ago or 14 years ago now. I'm not too sure. It was many, many years ago. And it was through someone who I had worked with in Canada, in Toronto. And he had come over from Uganda, and he told me about this lady who was incredible, who did all these things in his town, back at home in Uganda, and in Tororo, Uganda. And he said that this lady and her husband did so much for their community. So I reached out to her, and she came and visited us in Toronto, and told us her story. And since then, she has done so much more. So she's been a community leader. She has started her own charity called Helping Hands, working with hospitals, starting several schools herself, and also is pretty amazing because she's also become the Ugandan ambassador to Kenya. Phibby is always working with people, as you'll see, and also in her story, I'm not going to give it all away. You'll hear about how she made it to what she's doing and where she started as well. So Phibby, welcome. And this is a real honor for us to have you here speaking with us and speaking to the world today. So welcome. And I thought that what might be nice is if you talked a little bit about the beginnings of your life to begin with, and then we can go on to what you are doing now. Or if you like, you can start with what you are doing now, what your positions have been, and then we can talk about your beginnings of your life. Which one would you prefer?
I would always prefer to start with the beginning of my life.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kim. And thank you so much, the members that I can see in this meeting. I'm very, very happy. I'm humbled. I'm really humbled and honored. This is my first time to be on Zoom, and I'm so happy and excited. I'm Phibby Otaala. Right now, I'm the Ugandan High Commissioner serving in Kenya. I'm the ambassador of Uganda in Kenya. Such a very wonderful position that I have achieved in my life out of a very, very humble background. My dad died when I was only 6 years of age. I lived with a mother who had 6 other children. So we were living in the slum. We were both in the slum. In this slum, we were near the border of Uganda and Kenya. And you know what the slum is about. As a young girl, it was so difficult, but I thank God that the church came up and took me up and paid my school fees. I was so lucky. Out of the 7 children, the only child who was given education was me. It was not easy though, because the church could not give you all that you needed, but we also had to go around the villages digging for people to get some money to add on what we have. I had a very hard life, but all the same, a very successful life because of Christian life we had. In the church that I was in, I became the Sunday school leader. I could sing in front of the church every Sunday on behalf of the other children, and therefore we were given sponsors. And sponsors came from abroad, just like you can come to Africa and say, I want to help an orphan. And these sponsors picked me up and they started paying my school fees. I went through, out of the 500 orphans that were in one project, only 270 could go up to the end. The rest who were girls, who were girls, always conceived at early age. They had early pregnancies. Others were raped, others were defiled, others joined the smuggling because, along the border, very many young children are sent to do child labor and they do a lot of smuggling. So all those bad inhuman activities affected their education. For me, I was lucky. I really thank God that I went through. So after getting my education on, I decided to join the Uganda Red Cross Society as a volunteer at the age of 14. So this gave me an opportunity to start doing humanitarian activities, learning how to do first aid. And then we had this bad war of Uganda in 1986, where people died a lot, and we were taken as young volunteers to do counseling, psychosocial support, and talking to those who had lost their relatives. We also did family tracing, and I got a lot of exposure out of that. And through Red Cross, I felt my life was going toward humanitarian activities. And then I went back to school and studied mass communication. So at the end of my diploma in mass communication, Uganda Red Cross Society identified young youths who would go to Europe to do exchange programs. Because so many youths who had come down to Africa to do exchange, we also could go to Europe and do. My work in Europe at the age of 22 was just to help the Rwandese refugees. Because of the Rwandese genocide in 1994, I was now the one helping the refugees to understand what the communities in Denmark could offer them. I could speak Rwandese, I could speak Swahili, I speak the Ugandan language, which is related to Rwandese, and translate to English. And I stayed there for like 6 months. And when I lived there, I just said, oh God, who am I? From the slum to the state, how comes this is happening? When I get back to my community, I'll be able to start a charity. And that charity will be giving helping hands. It will be called Helping Hands. And then I also had another one called Hands of Hope. So Helping Hand was the school. Because of the slum, I wanted to give a helping hand to another child. I always felt I should help another one to be like me.
Ah,
My story. So then I went on with that. Then I went to Hands of Hope and I told the community, you must always live by hope. And we started an organization called Hands of Hope. Look what happened. I then I started this charity. And when I traveled to Canada in 2007, that is when I became a friend of Madame Kim. Now, Kim, you became my good friend and you motivated me so much by encouraging me and telling me it is worth a while to help another person. And I came back home and I was so happy that I was given a good job. The community then took me towards leadership and they said, now you're going to organize us. I was then given the work as a speaker of the council. I was speaking for the rights of the women and children, and then also helping the people who are living positive with HIV/AIDS. Our community has been eroded so much with HIV/AIDS. And if you would help a child on the street, you would find out why this child is on the street. The next step, you'll hear this child is living in the slum, and the life in the slum is hard because the mother is single. The mother is single because the father died, and the father died of what? Of HIV/AIDS. And because of that, there is no food. So we started in the holistic approach of supporting the community. Then I was able to do the service for other people until the president identified me for this job of ambassador. But before I became ambassador, I studied international relations and diplomacy, a degree. I went back to school to do a degree after 10 years when I was in the community. It wasn't also easy because I was now a mother at the same time a university student. I even had my my second child. Just after 2 weeks, I was doing the examination. But I'm a very strong woman and dynamic. I always went through my exam. And now I am the Uganda High Commissioner in Kenya. And soon I am going back to the community to serve again because I feel my heart is in the community.
oh my
And I
God.
thank you so much.
My goodness, what a story, Phibby. And you said so much so quickly. And behind so much of what you said, there are so many different stories. Before I go dig down now a little bit into these stories, where are you right now? Where is this garden? Are you in Tororo, or are you in Kampala, or in Kenya, or where are you?
I am back in Tororo because of this COVID-19. I decided to come back home. And when I came back home for a short time, the lockdown caught me here. So I am in the village down in Tororo. This is at home. You can see the sun is setting down.
You know,
So
it's 9:30 where I am in the morning in Saskatchewan
well,
province in Canada, and Nathan is in
mm,
Toronto. So it's 9:30 here and it's 6:30 p.m. there. That's very nice. Good timing. Okay, so you're in
yes.
Tororo. And what is the
So
situation?
I'm in Tororo.
Yes, good. Can you just talk a little bit about like you were able to achieve these things, and yet despite there are so many other people who also were able to get some initial education. You got chosen somehow to get educate or to be educated, to be funded for education to begin with, and then there were so many other people who were too, but you somehow kept moving up and up and up yourself. What do you think you could share with students and with other adults? What was it that allowed you to keep going, even despite all the hardships? What did you do that would be different than others? Or what did you do that perhaps, drove you through all of this? Because there's so many things that you went through.
Mhm. First of all, I always accepted the situation that I'm in. Whenever life would always be hard, I always had hope that there is a better tomorrow. And I always moved on with the support of my mom. And I always knew that I'm not the only one in the world who is facing this. But above it is the determination. Determination. I worked hard in school, and I'm always hopeful and very ambitious, and I'm always believing that there's a better tomorrow. And teamwork also. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. All these achievements that I've had, I've always had other people near me who are either in the same situation like me or whom I'm even in a better situation, and then I have to support them. And I've also been motivated by those whom I've shared with my stories. No one has ever let me down. People always come up and said, we shall be there with you, and this and that. And I've always moved very, very well. Yeah, the first thing is determination, working hard, having a teamwork, and respect, humility, you know, being someone who's much interested. And for the children, especially, if they would love to get what to know, uh, if they would like to progress and be successful, they have to respect their parents, they have to listen to their teachers, they have to work hard, and they do not have to be diverted by groups. There's a lot of influence in peer pressure. As I was telling you, I grew up in the slum. Very many girls, my friends, did not complete school because of peer pressure. They were taken up by groups. They were told only good stories about leaving school. You'll be better off. If you leave school, you'll get money, you get rich. So I did not look at that. I just went on, listened to my teachers, listened to my parents, and the church. I also went so much to church, and I played a big role in the society. And I was reading a lot. I was reading. I want to like, I like to read a lot. I like to see things happening.
What type of books then did you read?
I've always read leadership books. I've always seen that the community needs a very good leader, someone who would always stand up for the rights of the rest, someone who will always stand up and defend them, and someone who sacrifices time, and someone who will always be there to speak for them. Like now, my sister, this COVID-19, what he has done to the whole world. We are all affected. I know you there, you're also affected. But the levels of how we affected can never be the same. This community where I come from, when you say the lockdown, people have no any other income. These people are poor. These are people who are living in less than a quarter a dollar a day. And there is no way they can get any money. So you find that someone must be in the community like me. I really want to thank you so much. I really thank you, Madam Kim. It was so hard for me to share with you that people were dying in the hospital, not of corona, but the effect of corona. People did not have food. You know, they were on medication. And then in our lockdown, there is no movement. No border borders, those are these motorcycles that carry people to and from the hospital. So those who are in patient who are totally admitted there, especially delivering mothers, could never be visited and they were starving. So I came up and I started talking to you. I remember the beginning was very difficult. You also had the situation that the income was not so good. But with the little you had, you shared with us. You gave us food. You gave us water. You gave us, oh my God. Sometimes when I speak, I get emotions. You forgive me. You gave us everything that we asked you in the shortest time. And when we used all we had, again, we said, now we are sorry. The situation is again bad. Again, you talked to Darren and you sent us money and we again stocked to food. And the food we eat here, we do not eat expensive food. We just eat to live on. Moreover, a meal. You give a patient a meal. And the patient asks, what about dinner? And we say, no, you take that, and that is all. Even the patient caretaker may not eat because the food is only for the patient. But it did us a lot of pride that people could walk out of the hospital and say, I've come to say thank you so much, Phoebe, and thank your friends. Thank them so much for giving us this support. So the books I've always read is I always focus on leadership and good leadership and standing out for the community. Now this corona is still bad. It's even now worse. The death rate is increasing and there is no solution. Nobody knows what is on tomorrow, and yet people are there. Now we can't even keep on begging. It looks so embarrassing to keep saying we still need, we need. So sometimes you have to just go on and say, we don't know what tomorrow will be like. Yeah, but
No,
I thank you so much.
Education. How is education being done in Uganda right now with everything that's happening?
is there any education
Ah,
happening?
no. And there is no hope for education for this period because actually, I really thank our president so much. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is the oldest president in this region, but he has kept this country stable as far as the treatment and managing of corona cases. One of the things that he has said is social distancing, using masks. Everybody must have a mask. And he has avoided mainly the children. He has insisted that the 15 million children of Uganda will not go back to school because if only one kid brought corona in the setting of a school, the whole school will be infected and those children go back to different homes, they will take back to the community. And if that comes out, an outbreak like that, we will not have facilities. The hospital that I go to for physiotherapy now does not even have oxygen equipment. We do not even have enough beds. If we can't even feed the people, so if corona if we get an outbreak of corona here, that everybody is now infected, then we shall even die more than people who died in Italy. That's why the children are not going to school. And the only idea the president is saying, we should start teaching children in the villages, in the communities, maybe under the tree. They are trying to give teaching manuals in homes. But the parents are also illiterate. They even cannot read what the children are given. So with education, it will be until next year. But I've heard many people saying we should tap NGOs that can support us so that teachers teach within their localities and within their compounds or their homes a group of 20, 30 young children around there. That is it.
Good.
Even they've tried to give masks to children below the age of, from the age of 6 onward. But a kid of 10 years in Africa may not understand the mask. They even throw the masks, they are putting the masks on their head, they put on their legs, they are playing. They don't understand why this piece of cloth is in their mouth.
So Phibby, for all of the listeners that are here, how could they support your community in education?
I have this idea that since most of these children who are from school are below the age of 11, the majority who are playing around the communities, 11 to towards 4 years, we would get the university students who are also not in school, the senior 6 leavers who are not in school, senior 4 who are also not in school, and the teachers in the catchment areas. We will give them 1 or 2 weeks support training in basic education and the managing of children, so that we come together as in small groups in communities and we teach our children. We develop some manuals that can help these children because they are loitering everywhere. It's even risky for the young girls who are from the age of 11 to 14 who move up to late in the evening. These girls, I have had cases. I could make you a video and you see. A girl of 14, she's now pregnant because she is just in the village doing nothing. School was controlling her. I'm telling you, this is terrible. So what we can do, Hands of Hope as our organization, can work with Spirit of Mathematics, your school, to come up with a project proposal and a small budget. Then we can look for people who are of charity, people who are good Samaritans. Then they will sponsor us through you so that we can now support the communities. That's my idea is that. So that we put them in one place. We control the children.
So really having the children together isn't just for the education, it's really for their lives so that you can help direct them and help them focus in the right direction. And you're seeing that as just as important so that they can become something more and they won't get sidetracked and get pregnant or other things that are even worse. So I see that's your real concern right now. You also had some other ideas I heard too from you, and somehow using these university students who aren't going to university right now, and maybe teaching them how to teach as well, so that you have many more teachers, and not you already have lots of teachers, but even more if there's some way that you could train these other university students, you would all of a sudden have multiple, like you're exponentially increasing the number of teachers, and then they could meet with the smaller groups of children, because this is the other problem right now with coronavirus, is how do you get enough people to be able to teach in smaller groups?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, if anybody out there has another idea too, I'd love to hear about it, because this is critical here. And it's not just, it is throughout Uganda. I know that Phibby does represent Uganda as in a much bigger scope also, and I think that she's got a real close eye on what's happening in education there, particularly with girls' education because of the sensitivity around that, and also she's got an idea of really how the economics around a community works as well. So she could really give a proper direction to any of the ideas. You suggested funding as well. And I think for funding, it would have to be a very solid idea on what to do. So if you've got ideas and then the funding joined together, will give something very good. So I really appreciate this, Phibby. I think one more thing I'd just like to hear from you very, very quickly is, as an ambassador for other people listening, what types of things are you able to do, or what are you doing for Uganda to, like, as a representative of Uganda? What does an ambassador do? And just in terms of having kids understand what that position means.
Oh, thank you. An ambassador is a representative of the president in another country. I represent President Museveni in Kenya. An ambassador is somebody who has to promote the interest of his or her country in another country. How do I do that? Uganda and Kenya, we are the trading allies in the region. We are 6 countries that make East Africa. But out of the 6 countries, Uganda and Kenya, we are more close in business. Why? Because Kenya has the port of Mombasa, where we all get good things through the sea from all your countries of Europe, Canada, UK, wherever they go to the sea. And when they go through the sea, they'll come to Mombasa. And from Mombasa, we'll pass the things to Kenya, and Kenya will give the things to Uganda. Therefore, my work as ambassador, I have to see that there's good trading culture between Uganda and Kenya. I promote the peace and tranquility in the region, that we do not have fights at the borders. I ensure that the education, we share education systems. Some Ugandan children come to Kenya, and Kenyan students go to Uganda. And it's my work as ambassador to see that we share students and we give them good environment. We share teachers. We share so many common things in education. And also, we also share in investments. If an investor comes to seed from CEDA in Canada to Kenya, I become a friend of the Canadian embassy. Like we share one embassy, the Canadian embassy covers the whole entire East Africa. So one ambassador of from Canada goes to Kampala, goes to Nairobi, goes to Kigali, goes to Uganda, and everywhere. So my work is to work with her or him to see that we cooperate. So that's the work of an ambassador. An ambassador is someone to lobby like this that I'm doing now. That's why the president chose me to be ambassador, because by the way, Kim, I want to thank you so much.
Okay, well, that was great listening to her again. I think we've got some really good information about what's going on there, and I just wanted to finish off with 2 things here, Nathan. The first is, if you've got ideas, please share them with us, because we're ready to go and to do something to help them. You can see there's a fantastic leader there, and it's not just her, but she'd be able to help others as well and be able to lead. And she has the connections with other people, not just in Uganda, but throughout all of East Africa. The second thing I wanted to just leave with is the fact that many of the listeners don't realize that I was actually born in Kampala, Uganda. And so this is another reason why it's very dear to my heart. Just the whole African continent is actually dear to my heart. But and it's always interesting to hear what's going on back at my birth country. That was an incredible discussion with Phibby. She is an incredible person herself, a mother, a person who has overcome huge hardships, came from living in the slums, was able to bring herself through school, and despite all odds, she has become an ambassador. She didn't even mention some of the other political things that she's been involved in, representing her country as well, her husband. She's also a person who has started a couple of different charitable organizations. Even despite the very little that she had, she was able to do this. She talked about reading lots of leadership books, and she continually, the one word that I'm going to remember is this word, hope. This is what brought her through all of this, is hope, the community, working with others, and again, she kept saying hope. Wow, I think this really takes us to a whole new level and everyone to a whole new level. Nathan, did you have anything you wanted to say? Any word that you thought of?
Yeah, so I think it's just really important to mention about how different of an ecosystem she's in. She was talking about, well, if children are not in school, what are they doing? They're going out. She was talking about a 14-year-old getting pregnant, others going around getting into trouble. And so really it's just, well, how do we rebuild the community by bringing the children back together so that the proper leaders can actually direct them, steer them in the right direction. And so I think that if there's anything that our listeners wanted to do to help, we're very open to ideas, and we can connect you with Phibby herself.
That sounds great, Nathan, and you're right. There were several wars she talked about, and right now the important thing is to help the leaders lead them through this difficult situation of COVID.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll join you next week on our next podcast.
Bye, everybody.